So welcome back to OctoCue. This is part 3 of the 3-part series, and in this final part we're going to look at the PowerPoint add-in. In part 1 we looked at the control interface and the presenter clicker. Here's a presenter clicker sample here. In part 2 we looked at the receiver app, which is here. The final part is the PowerPoint add-in, which we will look at today. So what is the PowerPoint add-in? Well, the PowerPoint add-in works with PowerPoint to extract data from your presentation so that OctoCue can then share it with presenters. And the main thing it extracts is slide numbering information and slide notes. Use of the PowerPoint add-in is completely optional. OctoCue will run fine without the PowerPoint add-in. And if you're using Google Slides or Prezi or other presentation systems, obviously the PowerPoint add-in won't work for those systems, but OctoCue will still be able to control them without any problems. So the PowerPoint add-in is just when you're using PowerPoint, it gives you those extra functions to do with, in particular, show notes and slide numbers. So to start with, we're going to need to install the add-in. Now to do that, we do that on the receiver machines, so the same machines that have the OctoCue receiver app installed on them, we get the PowerPoint add-in, because they're the machines that are going to be running PowerPoint. And to get hold of it, we can go to Downloads and go to the PowerPoint add-in here and download the zip file. Now the zip file is downloaded, it's here. We'll have a look at its contents, and it has a few files here. I will extract these into a temporary directory for now. I can close that and delete that. And now to install the PowerPoint add-in, we just double click on Setup here and it will install the add-in for us. Now, because the PowerPoint add-in isn't used that much, there's not that many installs of this add-in in the world, Microsoft bring up this warning about it. It's a standard warning. As more and more people use OctoCue, it may well go away. But for now, one of the things you might need to do is just say you're happy with this. You can check the publisher of the software, which is us, Fix8 Group, Manchester Limited. Obviously, if that says something else, then you probably won't want to install. And now it'll install this Office customization, the PowerPoint add-in. And again, you can check the certificate here. So now this add-in has been installed, and we can close this, we can close this, we can actually delete this folder because we don't need it anymore. And the biggest challenge we've got is working out where the PowerPoint is and going and having a look at it. So to do that, the first thing we're going to need to do is get PowerPoint up and running. Now I've just got PowerPoint running on my machine, and I've got this PowerPoint running here. To see the add-in running, because there's no interface for the add-in, there's nothing you control on the add-in, it all happens in the background, you don't do anything with it. But to check that we've got it installed, we can go to Options down here, go to Add-ins, and we can see here Active Application Add-ins, OctoCue PowerPoint add-in running. We can actually disable and enable the add-in separately here if we wanted to turn it off and on. If we go to Manage.com add-ins, we can disable it and enable it here. This isn't the same as uninstalling it. This is just switching it off and on. If we wanted to uninstall the add-in, we do that through the normal Windows install and uninstall programs and features dialog boxes. But because we're demonstrating it here, we're going to leave it running. And what we can now see is, if we get rid of PowerPoint for a minute, we can see here on our receiver, this has now detected that the PowerPoint add-in is running, and we have a running symbol here. Also, if we go back to our show control interface, we will see the same thing here, PowerPoint add-in running, and we are ready to take more information. So next thing we need to do is open up a show in PowerPoint, so we've got some information to share. So dropping it back into PowerPoint, we can open up our sample show again. And you can see here we have some notes. So this is slide 1, the notes begin with bring to the table. And slide 2, the notes begin with leverage agile frameworks. So if I just move this onto a different screen and start the slideshow running, we can see now that the notes from slide 1, well actually we're on slide 2 at the moment, the notes from slide 2 have been extracted by the add-in, and they are being served up to our OctoCue system. So the additional data that we get from the add-in can be seen here. It tells us that we're in slideshow mode, we're not in edit mode, so there's a slideshow actively running. We've got the name of the PowerPoint presentation we're running, the slide number and the total number of slides in the deck, and a little preview of the notes. So we're not showing all the notes here. This is just a little preview. So if we want to see the notes as if we were a presenter, the first thing we're going to need to do is get a presenter live. So to do that, we'll start the receiver receiving, and with this time we want to display slide notes, so we select that option. We also want to start the correct presenter. So in this case, presenter 490 is this presenter here. So we'll have them we'll take their clicks to control the deck. We activate the clicker, and now if we go to the notes and buttons layout, we can see here we've got notes coming from the PowerPoint show through the receiver, through OctoCue to this presenter. Now, unfortunately, this is where my live video demo breaks down a little bit, because normally the windows you see here would be on separate machines. This would be probably a smartphone with the presenter. This would run on this machine running PowerPoint, and this would be on a completely separate computer. So if I click here, what will actually happen is this will start triggering itself in an endless loop. But what I can do is manually move the PowerPoint presentation forward and back, and you can see the slide notes changing, and you can see the slide numbers changing down here as well. Another important thing to note with slide notes is that if a clicker is muted, it won't get any notes. So while we stay on slide 2, if I mute this clicker, the notes will be hidden. So only presenters that are live can see their notes. They won't be able to see the notes of the presenters that have come before them or the presenters that come after them. So that's an overview of the PowerPoint add-in, the optional PowerPoint add-in, how it fits into the OctoCue system and what it provides.